So I managed to get it fixed, but not quite the way I wanted to. I did have to spend a little bit more and come out of the budget that I had planned. So I'm gonna get to it. About a year ago, I picked up this yard cart along with 2 other cart frames for $10 a piece and a Briggs & Stratton 5 horsepower flathead for $5, all at an auction. So in the spirit of cheap fun, I did the bare minimum to make this thing work in the last episode. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the Briggs to stay idling and even tried another carburetor I had laying around, which would idle, but I couldn't get it to rev right. So I was left with a choice of buying a new carburetor or finding another solution. Well, this is the solution. A Predator 212 from Harbor Freight at only $107 with tax and a coupon. It's the best option out there for cheap and reliable small engines. And of course, a few things had to be done to get the Predator working on this frame. The pull start was clocked a bit for an easier pull angle. The yellow oil sensor wire was disconnected and heat shrinked to prevent stalling around turns. And I needed some spacers under the engine to bring the clutch above the sprocket enough for easier adjustability. And I made a throttle cable which was attached to a catch in case the barrel nut falls off, which already happened once in the test ride, and I couldn't find that. So I don't want to lose the last one that I have. And it needed a better throttle return spring to return to idle a little bit better than the stock spring. If I had bought another cheap carburetor for the flathead, I would have been close to the cost of the 212, with the chance of it not even working. The Briggs will return for another project, so flathead fans, don't worry about it disappearing completely. I'm leaving the governor intact for now, so let's see how this worn out cart with a new engine performs. Alright, so since I got 3 go-karts and I'm going to end up fixing all of them, I'm going to do a little comparison. I came up with a bit of a backyard course, and I'm going to go through it in forward and then reverse, and I'm going to do 3 laps of each. And what I'll do is I'll come around so that I can get a rolling start to get the first lap going, and then we'll average the time together and compare and see how they do. And we'll start with this one, and then later on we'll get to the other 2. actually, I think what'll be a better comparison overall is going to be to do 3 individual standing laps just from a standstill, because this is only 1-wheel drive and some of the others may be 2, maybe 1, but it's going to make a difference on launch time, and so it might add just a bit of an extra element to the overall lap time. So let's give it a shot that way, see how it compares, and I think we're going to do it just from a standstill. Alright, so this is 3. Alright, so let's do the reverse laps. Alright, it's 2. And 3. All right, and the results are in. You can see that in the rolling laps, it's a little bit quicker in reverse than forward, and the same thing even with the standing laps, it's a little bit slower forward, quicker in reverse. And I do think that's because the power tire, the one that actually is driven, is being forced to the outside on those reverse laps, and so putting more power down. But I don't know if this is quick or if this is slow, but I am really impressed with the consistency of these standing laps. I didn't measure each lap on the rolling laps, but I think I'm not going to do rolling laps going into the next videos. I'm just going to stick with standing laps. I think overall it gives you a better idea of how it's performing. All right, well, I think that's gonna wrap it up for the day. Overall, this thing is pretty sweet. It turns really well, and being that it's only one-wheel drive instead of a live axle, it has no problems at all turning either direction. Of course, the downside to being only one wheel is, of course, when you take off, it does tend to want to just spin and not go anywhere. And when you're going around a right turn, when this wheel kind of lifts up a bit, it slows you way down. Whereas when you go around a left turn, or actually when you're going around a left turn is when it tends to pick this wheel up. When you're going around a right turn, it tends to plant this wheel. And so depending on which way you're turning, it does obviously affect the amount of grip you have on this wheel. So eventually it would be nice to change it to a live axle. The drum brake, even though it's brand new, is pretty much useless. And then of course, it is just a little bit too small for me. So it's very difficult to keep the foot for the brake ready to actually use the brake, but it doesn't matter anyway because that brake doesn't work anyway. But my shoestrings do tend to completely want to catch on the brake pedal and the bolt, and I just generally got nowhere to put my foot. And of course, without some sort of little foam thing to sit on, it's pretty painful. But overall, I'd say it's worth it. So the engine added, $100 onto the overall budget that I didn't originally want to spend, but I think it was well worth it. It fires up perfectly, and one, maybe two pulls if you don't do it right, and it just works. It works great. I mean, well under $150 overall for this one, and it's awesome. Next time we may end up upgrading the exhaust, upgrading the intake, possibly making it a live axle and painting it, doing some things, upgrading it a bit. But it's time to move on to the next one. So thanks for watching.